There's a moment you'll never see coming. No alarms. No goodbyes. Just silence. You stop reaching out, maybe out of exhaustion, or maybe because you've finally realized you were the only one trying. At first, they don't notice. They think you'll be back. You always come back. You've trained them to expect your presence, your message, your effort. But then, something shifts. The silence grows heavier. Your absence starts to echo louder than your words ever did. That's when they feel it. Not immediately, but slowly, like warmth fading from a room after the fire's gone out. They replay old memories, searching for the moment you changed. The moment you stopped chasing. The moment you stopped caring, or maybe, the moment you finally started caring about yourself. Funny, isn't it? How your silence speaks louder than all the words you ever said. And while you're out there learning to breathe again, they start to suffocate. Because deep down, they realize something terrifying. You were the only one holding the connection alive. And when you stop reaching out, they feel the weight of every message they never sent. Every moment they took you for granted. Every chance they had to meet you halfway, and didn't. Here's the illusion we all fall for. We think love stays alive through effort alone. That if you just keep showing up, keep calling, keep texting, somehow, that'll be enough. You tell yourself they're just busy. You tell yourself they care, just not in the way you do. So you keep reaching out, trying to hold on to something that's already slipping away. But the truth? Sometimes, effort becomes the very thing that blinds you. You start mistaking anxiety for love. You start mistaking chasing for connection. You start mistaking constant communication for closeness. And without realizing it, you hand over your peace. Because here's what happens when you reach out too much. You teach the other person that your love is endless, that your patience has no limit, that no matter how far they pull away, you'll always be there waiting. You become predictable. And in predictability, you lose power. It's not that they stop caring. It's that they stop valuing what feels guaranteed. When something feels certain, the human mind starts to take it for granted. It's how we're wired. The more available something is, the less our brain fights for it. You've seen it before. The friend who stops replying because they know you'll text again. The partner who grows distant because they've grown used to your warmth. The people who stop appreciating your presence because you never allowed them to miss it. The illusion is this: that the more you give, the more they'll love you. But love doesn't grow from constant giving. It grows from balance. From space. From mystery. People don't value what's always available. They value what they fear to lose. And that's where so many of us break ourselves. We think silence means failure. We think stepping back means surrender. But sometimes, silence is the only thing that can restore balance. Because when you stop reaching out, the illusion starts to crumble. They begin to notice the space you once filled. The energy that used to flow toward them now returns to you. And that's when everything changes. You see, most people never realize this. The one who chases ends up emotionally enslaved to the one who withdraws. It's a silent power dynamic. One gives endlessly, hoping for validation. The other receives, often without awareness of the imbalance. But when the giver finally stops, the energy flips. Suddenly, the silence feels louder. The absence feels alive. And the person who once had the power feels the ground shift beneath them. Because power was never in who loved more. It was in who respected their own peace first. The illusion ends when you stop believing your worth is measured by how much you give. Your worth was never in your effort. It was in your energy. And the moment you protect that energy, everything around you changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging for attention. You stop mistaking emotional chaos for connection. And quietly, something inside you starts to heal. They will feel it too. At first, it'll confuse them. Then, it'll bother them. Eventually, it will haunt them. Because they'll sense it. That you no longer need them to feel complete. And that realization, that's what makes them finally see your value. You were never hard to love. You were just too available in a world that values what's rare. And when you stop reaching out, the world finally starts reaching back. When you finally stop reaching out, something happens that you don't expect. At first, it's uncomfortable. The silence feels loud. You catch yourself checking your phone, wondering if they noticed. You think about them, the way things used to be, and your mind plays tricks on you, whispering that maybe you're overreacting, that maybe you should just text again. But this is the moment that defines everything. Because silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means the energy is shifting. The truth is, relationships are built on energy exchange. Every message, every call, every act of effort is a form of energy. When one person gives too much, the balance breaks. The one who chases starts to lose themselves. The one who withdraws feels safe but uninspired. And so the connection begins to decay, not because of lack of love, but because of imbalance. You see, when you keep giving, you leave no space for the other person to step forward. Your effort fills every silence, and your presence fills every gap. They never have to reach for you, because you've made yourself too easy to reach. But when you stop, when you finally pull your energy back, the silence becomes a mirror. It forces them to see what they've done, or haven't done. The human mind is wired for contrast. We only notice warmth after we've felt the cold. We only value presence when we've experienced absence. That's the psychology of loss. We realize importance only when we can no longer feel it on demand. So when you stop reaching out, their brain begins to search for the signal it once took for granted. They replay old messages. They wonder if they did something wrong. They feel that subtle discomfort, the weight of your silence. It's not revenge. It's awareness. You're no longer forcing connection. You're allowing space for realization. This is where emotional self-control becomes power. You learn to sit with discomfort instead of chasing relief. You stop acting out of fear, fear of losing them, fear of being forgotten, fear of being alone. Because that fear is what once drove you to overextend. Now, your silence teaches you something stoic at its core. Peace comes when you stop needing things to be a certain way. You start to realize that not everyone is meant to understand your silence. Some people were only meant to hear your voice. And when your voice goes quiet, they fade with it. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk with you when you start respecting yourself. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you begin attracting. Because energy doesn't disappear, it redirects. What once went into proving your worth now builds your peace. What once went into pleasing others now strengthens your boundaries. And that's when things begin to shift. They feel your absence, yes, but more importantly, you begin to feel your presence again. You notice you're breathing easier. You notice your mind isn't waiting for a message anymore. You notice you've started to focus on yourself again, your goals, your quiet mornings, your laughter. That's the real transformation. When the silence that once felt painful becomes peaceful. And somewhere out there, the person you once chased is thinking of you. Wondering why your energy feels different. Why their phone feels too quiet. Why the balance suddenly shifted. They don't know it yet, but they're feeling the moment you stopped reaching out. The moment you finally chose yourself. There comes a point when your silence no longer hurts. When it no longer feels like loss, but clarity. That's the shift. The Stoic shift. You start to see things for what they are, not what you wish they were. You stop chasing closure from people who were never ready to give you honesty. You stop waiting for apologies from those who only understood your absence, not your effort. And you realize something powerful. Peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling your response to them. You've been trained to believe that silence is weakness. That walking away means you gave up. But silence, in truth, is one of the highest forms of strength. Because silence demands control. And control requires mastery over emotion. When you stop reaching out, it's not about pride. It's about presence. You're no longer chasing someone else's attention, you're returning to your own. The Stoic mind understands this. You can't lose what was never yours to control. You can only lose the illusion that you ever could. So when they pull away, you let them. When they forget to call, you don't beg. When they fail to see your worth, you don't argue. Because your energy no longer bends to external validation. It flows inward, steady, calm, untouchable. This is what emotional freedom feels like. It's not numbness. It's not pretending you don't care. It's caring deeply, but refusing to let that care destroy your peace. You've learned that not every reaction deserves your energy. Not every silence needs to be filled. Not every distance needs to be closed. Because sometimes, walking away isn't rejection, it's realignment. Here's the quiet truth few people ever understand. When you detach, you don't stop loving them. You just stop needing them to love you back. That's what real detachment is. Not coldness. Not indifference. It's peace. It's looking at what once consumed you and realizing, it no longer controls you. And in that peace, you begin to understand something even deeper. You realize that love, in its purest form, is freedom. The freedom to let others be who they are, without trying to fix or convince them. The freedom to be yourself, even if it means being misunderstood. That's Stoic love, silent, strong, unattached. You begin to notice how your world feels lighter now. How the people who drained you have faded quietly into the background. How the ones who remain respect your boundaries. It's not a coincidence. When you choose peace over pursuit, the world rearranges itself around your calm. And ironically, that's the moment they start to notice you again. They feel your calm. They sense your distance. They remember your energy, not desperate anymore, but dignified. But by then, you've changed. You no longer need their validation to feel seen. You no longer crave their response to feel whole. Because peace has become your new addiction. This is the Stoic shift, when love no longer feels like chaos, but clarity. When silence no longer feels like punishment, but protection. When letting go no longer feels like losing, but returning home to yourself. You don't chase anymore. You attract through presence, not pressure. You love without fear, and walk away without hate. And maybe one day, they'll reach out again. Maybe they'll apologize. Maybe they won't. It won't matter. Because the real victory was never about getting them back. It was about getting you back. And that is when they finally feel it. Not your need. Not your chase. But your peace. There's a strange beauty in the moment you stop chasing. It's like the storm finally passes. The noise fades. And for the first time in a long while, you can hear your own thoughts again. You start to notice things you'd forgotten. The way the wind feels on your skin. The taste of your coffee. The quiet joy in doing nothing. Because when you were constantly reaching out, your world revolved around one person. Now, it revolves around you. This is the moment of healing. The moment where you realize that losing people was never the real loss. Losing yourself in the process was. And now that you're finding yourself again, everything begins to align. You see, when you were always the one reaching out, you taught yourself that love was something you had to chase. But love was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be met halfway. That's why the silence feels so freeing now. Because you've stopped measuring your worth by someone else's response. You've stopped begging to be chosen. You've remembered that you were never hard to love, you were just trying to love people who weren't ready. And the beautiful thing? When you stop reaching out, the world doesn't fall apart. The people meant for you stay. The ones who never valued you drift away quietly, and you no longer chase after their shadow. That's not loss. That's alignment. When you stop reaching out, something else starts reaching toward you: peace, balance, clarity. You start attracting people who match your calm. You start attracting experiences that bring you peace instead of anxiety. You start becoming the person you were always meant to be, someone grounded, strong, and free. And maybe one day, they'll think about you again. They'll scroll through old messages, wondering how someone so patient, so kind, could just disappear. They'll feel the weight of your absence, not because you vanished, but because you stopped trying to prove your worth. And deep down, they'll know. You didn't stop reaching out because you stopped caring. You stopped because you finally understood your value. That's the real power of silence. It doesn't punish. It teaches. It teaches you to trust the rhythm of life, to let things unfold naturally. You no longer force what isn't flowing. You no longer beg for understanding from those not ready to see you. You just breathe. And that breath, that calm, that quiet, it's the sound of self-respect returning. You realize you never needed closure from them. You only needed to close the chapter inside yourself. Because peace isn't something they could ever give you, it was waiting for you to choose it. You start to live differently. You no longer send messages out of fear. You no longer try to fill the silence, you let it speak for you. You stop chasing love and start embodying it. Because when you love yourself fully, you become whole again. And in that wholeness, you stop attracting what breaks you and start magnetizing what builds you. When you stop reaching out, it's not the end. It's the rebirth. The rebirth of your strength, your dignity, your peace. You're no longer the one begging for connection, you are the connection. Your calm draws others in, your energy feels grounded, your presence becomes magnetic. Because there's nothing more attractive than someone who's at peace with themselves. So let them feel it. Let them wonder why your energy feels different now. Let them miss the version of you that gave endlessly. That version is gone, replaced by someone wiser, quieter, freer. Someone who finally learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Because when you stop reaching out, you stop chasing people. And start attracting peace. You see, letting go isn't about giving up on people. It's about giving them back to themselves. And giving you back to you. Because the truth is, you never really lose someone by walking away. You only lose the illusion that you needed them to feel whole. One day, they'll realize what your silence meant. That it wasn't anger. It wasn't pride. It was peace. You learned that real power isn't in chasing connection. It's in being the kind of soul that stays grounded even when everything around you changes. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." So, don't let someone's absence define your worth. Don't let their silence pull you out of your peace. Your worth doesn't vanish when they stop choosing you. It shines brighter, because you still choose yourself. The moment you stop reaching out, they feel it. Not because you punished them with distance. But because you reclaimed your energy. You stopped pouring it into people who couldn't hold it. And now, you're free. So keep your silence sacred. Keep your peace unshaken. And remember, those who truly value you won't need your effort to notice your absence. They'll feel it, because your energy, your love, your presence, was never ordinary. It was real.